Welcome to first episode of our show, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. In this thought-provoking deep dive series, we unpack key ideas from Yuval Noah Harari's 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, offering clear and engaging reflections on the technological, political, and existential challenges of our time. And today, you and I are taking a deep dive specifically into the book's introduction.
Right, that introduction, it's really crucial, isn't it? It properly sets the scene for everything else.
Yeah, it gives you the whole landscape of the problems Harari thinks we need to be, well, grappling with now.
Exactly, it's the foundation.
And it builds on his other books, but in a really specific way. He says, Sapiens showed us where we came from. Homo Deus looked to the future.
Mhm.
But 21 lessons, that's all about the present, what's happening today, the messy stuff.
Precisely. And he's very clear, this isn't like Sapiens, it's not a big historical narrative. He calls it a selection of lessons.
Like tools.
Sort of, yeah. Tools to get you thinking, to help you join in the big conversations that are happening right now. And apparently a lot of it came from questions people actually asked him.
Oh, interesting. That makes it feel really immediate, like it's grounded in what people are actually wondering about.
Definitely.
And he talks about a kind of golden thread running through it all.
Yes, that's the key tension he sees. It's this huge challenge for us collectively and, individually, just trying to stay focused when everything's changing so incredibly
It's
fast.
disorienting.
Totally. And the big question he keeps coming back to, the one he wants us thinking about, is essentially, can we still even understand this world we've made?
Wow. Yeah, that hits hard because it does feel overwhelmingly complex
Yeah.
sometimes. He mentions this global agenda shaping things,
Right.
climate change.
Right. And he doesn't just talk about it abstractly. He points to concrete potential impacts like Mumbai's slums becoming unlivable or triggering massive refugee crises or even healthcare systems just collapsing under the strain.
So not some far-off future issue. It's happening now.
Exactly. These are present-day pressures. But he's also careful, he admits reality is complex. There are loads of different threads. The book looks at technology, politics, religion, different facets. It's not claiming to be exhaustive.
It's about pulling out the critical threads, maybe,
Yeah.
trying to make sense of the chaos.
That seems to be the goal, finding the meaning in the noise.
Okay, so let's dive into those present challenges he outlines. That disorientation you mentioned seems like it's tied directly to technology, right? Especially infotech and biotech.
Absolutely. Harari's point is that our main political system, the liberal system, well, it was basically built for the industrial age.
Steam engines, factories?
Yeah, oil refineries, television maybe, it kind of understood that world. But it's really struggling to get a handle on, AI, genetic engineering, all this new stuff.
It's like trying to fix a Tesla with a Ford Model T manual.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. He highlights this fundamental gap. Politicians, voters,
Yeah.
often we just don't really understand these new technologies. Not properly.
Let alone regulate them.
Exactly. Regulate their explosive potential. I mean, think about the internet. That wasn't really driven by political parties, was it? It was engineers.
True.
And our democratic systems are still playing catch up, trying to figure out the impact of the internet, while the next things, AI, blockchain, they're already here.
And maybe that feeling, that sense that the future is being shaped by things you don't get. Maybe that's why we're seeing this loss of faith in liberalism, in democracy, even in places like the US or Europe.
That's a really key point he makes, this feeling ordinary people have that the future is just passing them by. Even if they can't name the specific technology, they sense it.
It's different from the past, isn't it? He mentions
Oh.
1938.
Right. In the USSR, Nazi Germany, the US, whatever the flaws, the propaganda then, it told the common person, you are important, you are the hero. Think of those posters, the heroic worker, the soldier.
You felt like you were part of the story, needed somehow.
Exactly. And Harari suggests that maybe, just maybe, the populist anger we see today isn't the old story of being exploited by the rich,
So
but the fear of becoming irrelevant to them. An elite that just doesn't need the masses anymore. And that, he argues, is a much harder thing to fight against than exploitation. It's scarier, maybe.
So is that it for liberalism then? Is it over? Or has it survived bad times before?
Well, he does remind us this isn't the first time liberalism has faced a major crisis. He points back to things like World War I, that Franz Ferdinand moment, he calls it,
Right?
or the late 1930s, with fascism and communism looking like the future for many, or even 1968, all that global unrest.
Those were definitely moments where it looked like liberalism might not make it.
For sure. And Harari's perspective, interestingly, is that today's crisis, Well, it's serious, obviously, but maybe it's actually less severe than those earlier ones.
Really? What?
His argument seems to be that there isn't really a clear, compelling global alternative ready to take over. People might be angry, they might, kick the system, metaphorically speaking.
But then what?
But then where do they turn on a global scale? There's no obvious replacement ideology that everyone's rallying behind worldwide.
What about the more local things? Nationalism,
Hmm.
religion. People seem to be turning back to those.
He definitely acknowledges that. People might give up on a big global story and just retreat into their local nationalist or religious tales. That's a real possibility.
So he sees limitations there.
Yeah.
Thought-
He points out that in the 20th century, nationalist movements were powerful, absolutely, but often they didn't have a strong vision for global problems. When it came to things like nuclear weapons or international trade, they often ended up borrowing ideas from, well, liberalism or communism.
Okay, and what about those ruling oligarchies? He uses Russia as a case study.
Right. He talks about these systems existing, but argues they don't really offer a proud, inspiring vision for the future. Often they just kind of use other ideologies they might pretend to be democratic or push nationalism or orthodoxy in Russia's case.
Like a smokescreen.
Exactly. A smokescreen for what he describes as, well, often corruption, really poor public services, no real rule of law, staggering inequality. His point is, even people in other countries who might cheerlead for these regimes probably wouldn't want to live under the actual day-to-day reality of them.
So maybe part of why liberalism hangs on is just lack of a better global alternative that actually works in practice.
That seems to be a core part of his argument in the introduction. But, whatever story wins out, whether it's liberalism adapting or nationalism or Islam or something totally new,
It has to pass the test.
a huge test. Any story wanting to be credible in, say, 2050 has to make sense of and somehow integrate these twin revolutions, infotech and biotech,
And they're still just getting started, really.
just in their infancy. And yet, Harari believes they're going to bring the toughest challenges humanity has ever faced. Any narrative aiming for global buy-in must have something coherent to say about AI, big data, bioengineering.
This is where he brings in that idea of cacking humans, isn't it? Linking AI to actually understanding us.
Precisely. It's not just about faster computers. It's tied into amazing progress in neuroscience, behavioral economics, all this research that's showing us how we make decisions.
Like on biochemical processes.
Yeah, essentially biochemical mechanisms calculating probabilities. He even reframes things like human intuition. It's not some magic spark, it's highly sophisticated pattern recognition based on our biology processing data.
Which leads to the unsettling idea that if our feelings are just algorithms, a computer could potentially understand them better than we do.
That's the logical, if chilling, conclusion he draws. If an algorithm understands your internal biochemical processes better than you, it might make better decisions for you. Even in jobs we think need that human touch, that intuition.
Like a banker deciding on a loan, or a lawyer reading a jury.
Or even just a driver predicting what the car next to them will do. AI could potentially do it better because it understands the underlying calculations.
And these AI systems have built-in advantages, right? Connectivity, updates.
Oh, massive advantages. Take his example of AI doctors. Imagine a new virus appears.
Yeah.
Or a breakthrough treatment is found.
Huh?
Billions of AI doctors worldwide could be updated instantly. They could share data, learn from each other in real time. Now, compare that to trying to get that new information out to every single human doctor on Earth. Retrain them. It takes ages.
But isn't there a risk if everything's connected? One big system failure.
He does address that. The idea isn't necessarily one single AI god doctor. You could have an integrated network running multiple algorithms. So maybe through your phone, even in a remote place, you could access the opinions of hundreds of different AI specialists.
Okay, so you get the network benefits without total centralization.
Potentially, yes. Diversity within the network.
And all this tech stuff, it loops right back to that scary idea of the useless class, but focused on jobs.
Yes. The introduction connects the dots very clearly. As AI, robots, 3D printers get better and cheaper, the value of basic, unskilled human labor goes down.
Like his example of making shirts in Brooklyn versus Dhaka.
Exactly. If you can 3D print a shirt locally, what happens to the economic model based on cheap labor in places like Bangladesh? Workers there, if they don't have the education for the new jobs, coding, design, maintaining the robots, what do? It's a fundamental survival question.
It's not just retraining the coach driver to drive a car.
Yeah.
It's the horse becoming obsolete.
That's the stark analogy used in the source material, yes. sharing the fate of 19th century horses pushed out of the economy altogether. And even the human jobs that remain. They might be really volatile, always under threat from the next automation wave.
Making things like unions harder, more gig work.
More precarious work, less protection. The source does note this wasn't causing huge mass unemployment everywhere as of early 2018, but it's flagged as a major potential future issue, a speculation, but a serious one.
And this technological divide could make global inequality much, much worse.
Well, think about it. If AI reduces the economic worth of millions, maybe billions of people, and at the same time, biotech offers expensive upgrades, only the rich can afford longer lives, better brains.
You get a gap that's not just economic.
It becomes biological. Harari flits the possibility of society splitting into actual biological castes. A super rich elite owning the AI and the biotech, maybe living centuries. And a vast underclass, possibly on some kind of basic income, maybe just competing for status symbols or entertainment, an almost unbridgeable gap.
So it's not just jobs or money. Authority itself might shift away from humans.
That's the really radical idea. Authority, he says, has usually come from stories. For liberalism, it's rooted in the idea of individual free will, right? You have agency, you make choices. But if science starts showing that our feelings, our choices, are just biochemical calculations, well, that undermines the whole idea of free will.
And if you combine that biological understanding with the power of AI to process the data,
then you get algorithms that could potentially monitor and understand our feelings, our internal states, better than we do ourselves. And if they understand us better and can make better predictions or decisions,
authority naturally shifts to them.
it seems almost inevitable. Authority shifts from humans, justified by free will, to algorithms justified by their superior data analysis.
Which forces a massive rethink of, well, everything. What does it mean to be human if algorithms make better decisions for us? About our career, our health, maybe even who we marry.
Exactly. That idea of the autonomous individual making choices, it's so central to democracy, capitalism, art, religion. So much of our culture is about the drama of human decision-making. If algorithms take over that role, the whole concept starts to crumble.
We might start seeing ourselves differently, not as individuals making choices, but as...
He offers an alternative view. Maybe the universe is just a flow of data. Organisms, including us, are just biochemical algorithms processing that data. And humanity's cosmic role, maybe, is just to create an even bigger data processing system, the Internet of all things, and perhaps eventually merge into it.
Like we're just becoming tiny chips in a huge system.
That's the kind of language he uses, yeah. Tiny chips in a giant system we barely comprehend.
Okay. So if data is becoming the key resource, the basis for this new authority, the absolute crucial question has to be, who owns the data?
He calls data the most important asset of the 21st century. More important than land used to be, more important than factories and machines became.
And just like owning land created aristocrats, and owning machines created capitalists.
Owning data, he warns, could split humanity not just into classes, but potentially into different species.
That is quite a thought. Biologically different.
That's the extreme potential he raises, because this data, especially biometric data from sensors on our bodies and our homes, it could allow governments or corporations to know us intimately, to understand our desires, our fears, maybe even manipulate them.
And make decisions for us.
And ultimately, by deciphering the biochemical mechanisms, potentially engineer life itself, control the future of evolution.
So who owns my data? My DNA sequence, my brain patterns, my life history? Does it belong to me? The government? Google? Facebook? Or should it be collective?
That, Harari says flat out, might be the single most important political question of our time. He basically puts out an urgent call. Lawyers, politicians, philosophers, artists, everyone needs to figure out how we regulate data ownership, and fast.
Because if we don't.
The risk, he suggests, is potential socio-political collapse, something on a scale we haven't seen before.
And maybe that sense of impending crisis, that feeling that something fundamental is shifting with data and AI, maybe that's why people are losing faith in the old liberal story already. They kind of sense this coming.
It's a very plausible link he makes. People feel the ground shifting, even if they can't articulate exactly why.
Are there any technological fixes? Could technology itself help manage this?
He briefly touches on it. Could networked algorithms somehow form a global community that collectively owns data? He mentions Mark Zuckerberg's vision for Facebook's AI building community, but adds the huge caveat that this would mean changing their entire business model.
Right, away from data harvesting.
Exactly. And he calls for other big tech players, other institutions, to make similar big ideological commitments to use data for the common good, not just profit or control.
Okay, so we've really covered the key challenges Harari maps out in this introduction. The speed of tech change, that feeling of irrelevance, liberalism under strain, data as the new power source, and these huge questions about what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's a powerful setup. These lessons from the introduction, they really lay out the urgent, interconnected issues he sees defining our century. They're definitely designed to make you sit up and think.
And that final thought he leaves us with, if authority does shift to algorithms, if our own free will is maybe just biochemical calculations, how do you even navigate the world?
Exactly. That's the really provocative question hanging in the air at the end of the intro. What does it mean to be human in the 21st century? How do you prepare yourself or your kids for a future where the basic idea of you as an autonomous individual might be completely transformed by technology? It's a huge question.